This week on the WriterCon podcast.
You know, I always tell writers that to celebrate the small successes along the way, and that could include anything from finishing a difficult chapter to getting some positive feedback to publishing a short story, because I feel like we get so focused on what's the next rung of the ladder.
Welcome to WriterCon, a gathering place for writers to share their knowledge about writing and the writing world. Do you have a desire to write? Every successful writer started with their first book. All it takes is determination and knowledge, and WriterCon can provide that knowledge. Your hosts are #1 national best-selling writer William Bernhardt, author of more than 60 books, including The Superman Wars, and Lara Bernhardt, award-winning author of the Wantland Files series and Shadow of the Taj.
Thank you, Jesse Ulrich. Hey there, writers. Thanks for joining us today. I want to talk about my concerns about a new wave of author-targeted scams. I mean, if you've been writing long, you've been subjected to fake email, trying to get your money or your contact information, but now there's a new wave of supposedly smart AI-generated email that pretends to be an agent who's really interested in your work. But thanks to AI, now the email might include the title of your book or some other superficial information about you or something that was gleaned from an interview. Don't be fooled. These are scams. If you have any questions about the validity of an offer, go to Writer Beware. Great website, follows all these writer scams, and they can tell you what's up and what you should believe in. But generally, anytime anybody comes out of nowhere and wants your information so you can make tons of money, that's a scam. Real agents rarely reach out to unknown authors unless, of course, your book just sold 1 million copies or something. So don't let those people get your information or your money. Lara, I heard you murmuring back there. Have you seen any of these scams?
Yeah, not one that purports to be from an agent, but I'm getting a lot of them that claim to be marketers or promoters or someone else who's going to help my book gain traction. And you're exactly right. They are using my full name and they are describing the book's content. And it's not anything that couldn't be gleaned from, for example, the description on the Amazon page. Sure. But it's still pretty impressive that it's so targeted and personal.
Yeah, it sounds
I
very,
had one come
targeted
to me that sounded like it was someone who'd actually read the book. And I started to engage them. But as soon as I answered, it turned into, oh, let me help you promote your book. And that was the very first one that I received. And now I'm onto it. So I know not to open those.
Yeah. Another sign might be where they keep hiding the ball in terms of what this is going to cost, because anybody reputable would be willing to tell you this up front. But if they keep delaying and delaying, not a good sign. Jesse, I remember you saying before that you thought AI was okay as long as it isn't doing the work of creatives. Well, here's AI doing what really only AI can do, scrounging all over the internet to get factoids they can stick in an email to scam people. It's not really what I'd call creative work, but it's definitely AI.
I would say it actually is very creative work because scams used to take work and time
that's true.
and energy. And for our listeners, a very easy scam test is like actually look at the physical email address that the thing came from. And you can probably, most of the time you can tell just by looking at it whether it's real or not.
Yeah.
So
like if it's not a comprehensible.com or something.
Yeah. Or if it tries this, then sometimes they try to hide the actual email address. And so, if it's saying it's coming from a company, but that company's name is not in the email address, it is probably 99% a scam. So
yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah, I don't want AI doing scams either. I just want to put that out there.
Right.
We'll add that to the list.
Books,
yeah, I want people getting paid money to do these scams. Okay, keep humans in scam jobs.
No.
You got to stand up for what you believe, Jesse. Yeah. All right. Today we're interviewing poet and novelist Erica Wright. Her previous mystery was called Hollow Bones, which was called, among other things, quote, an incredibly rich work of literature, end quote. And now she has a new, what people are calling a psychic mystery called the Museum of Unusual Occurrence. We will talk about her about that and so much more. But first, the news. News story number 1, Hachette cancels an AI slop book. Yes, we're talking about Hachette Book Group, one of the big 5, one of the largest publishers doing business in the United States. They have pulled a almost immediately forthcoming horror novel called Shy Girl after a New York Times article alleged that the author, Mia Ballard, relied heavily on AI again, artificial intelligence, to write the book. She originally self-published the book. Then it was picked up by Hachette in the UK, where it's been on sale for months. The book concerns a desperate young woman who's held hostage by a man she met online and is then forced to live as his pet. The author's denied using AI to write the book. She says that an acquaintance she hired to edit the book must be the one who used AI. Quote, "This controversy has changed my life in many ways, and my mental health is at an all-time low, and my name is ruined for something I didn't even personally do." Here's one more thing I need to add. Hachette knew about this controversy well before that New York Times article ran, though, because it was being discussed a lot and hotly online by readers who noticed things like repetitive phrasing, words and phrases that come up over and over again, metaphors that don't really land. That is, they don't really make any sense. Mm-hmm. You can find still many analyses of this book on Reddit, and there's a detailed YouTube video which reveals all the evidence of what they call slopitude. The author has responded that Hachette remains silent until the New York Times took up the case, and then they pulled the book. Lara, does any of this surprise you?
It's a little bit alarming to me. I think that there's a huge wave of people, readers, who are trying to accuse authors of using AI. And I'm just a little alarmed because most of the time what they're using to determine AI is, oh, you used M dashes. That must be AI. Oh, you used heightened vocabulary. That must be AI. You used big words I don't understand. You must have written it with AI. So I'm a little bit concerned that there are some people who are being accused of things that they haven't done.
Sure. I don't think this is a case of that, though.
This may not be a case of that, but it's not going to help any of us because we do know that there's a lot of AI slop out there.
Yeah, but it doesn't normally come from a big 5 publisher, you know?
Yeah, and this is on the publisher. Like it's the publisher's job to make sure they're not publishing AI slop. Like it shouldn't be on internet detectives.
I mean, the fact that so many people online could figure it out without trying very hard makes me wonder if anybody at Hachette even read the book before they published it. And remember, she self-published it, so it must have been racking up sales, and then they bought it.
Right.
You would think they read it first.
You would think that they actually looked at that and maybe had an editor work with her, see what might need to be improved. So you'd think that somebody would have caught that.
Pretty disturbing.
Why is everybody angry at the author? I agree with Jesse. It's on the publisher.
Yeah.
They bought it. They should have been more proactive.
Amazon doesn't care about AI slop. We know this, other than limiting the amount of books you can publish in a day. That was the one thing they've done. So like it has to be on the people who are putting money and time behind an IP to check on these things. And on top of that, again, listeners, we talk about AI a lot on this show. I just want to be clear what exactly we mean. Like all these AI things are what are called large language models, which is really just a massive amount of data of books and ideas, and you just run your thing through that. So it's not even creating anything. It's just using things that it already has access to. And so like,
Right.
it's not a brain coming up with an idea. And so because of that, it's going to make weird mistakes. And again, always like, I don't know, check your work. Like even if I sent somebody something to an editor to edit, I would look to see what their changes and suggestions were before just automatically, hitting the check mark on a Google Doc to change whatever the word is,
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That New York Times article I mentioned suggested that over 70% of the book had been written by AI.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
The editor must have done a lot of AIing.
Real number on that.
So what surprises me is that it wasn't caught by someone.
Yeah. If it's obvious to people on the internet, why wasn't it
Should
obvious
be.
to the publisher?
Right.
Okay. News story number 2. Tracy Wolff has been absolved of plagiarism charges. A judge in the Southern District of New York ruled that Tracy Wolff did not plagiarize when she created her YA fantasy series Crave. She was sued by a writer named Lynn Freeman, who alleged that this series, which by the way was published by Entangled, same person that's publishing Rebecca Yarros and others, and the judge said that it was, quote, that Lynn Freeman said that the book was substantially similar to one of her unpublished manuscripts. In the court's ruling, the judge wrote that, quote, Freeman's novel and Wolff's Crave novels are indeed similar, but only in the ways that all young adult romantasy fiction novels are similar to each other. And then the court adds, quote, hot, sexy, dangerous boys, central to virtually all young adult romance novels, cannot be copyrighted.
Damn right. You can't copyright tropes.
Yeah, exactly. The judge, empathy here. The judge said that she read 6 drafts of the plaintiff's work and 4 of the Crave novels. That's more than 6,000 pages of romantasy, but found nothing more than, like Jesse was saying, common tropes. This is probably not what she thought she was going to be doing when she went to law school or when she was appointed to the bench. Jesse, again, does this surprise you?
It doesn't. I mean, again, like what's the old saying, like every story's already been told, like especially in very specific genre fiction, books are going to be similar. There's only so many ways to tell of a magical school, vampires, sexy vampires,
especially if it's romance, then there's going to be
like it's
edgy boys and
there are tropes in every genre, and a good author takes those tropes and makes something unique out of it. But like its ingredients are things that already exist in the world. And so, you can think, like there was a person who came up with, actually I think it was someone who's in trouble now, but came up with a almost Harry Potter-esque story before J.K. Rowling. But like, again, magical learning school, like does X-Men get the copyright on magical schools for special people, right? Like these are things that just exist in the ether. So you got to be creative with it.
So Lara, that leads to the question, where do you draw the line between common tropes and stealing other people's work?
I think how much similarity
Well, I noticed in the pleading, go ahead.
There was concern, I remember, because there was an agent involved with this who had brought that to the publisher. The publisher didn't want it, but then later the author saw virtually what she thought was virtually the same story. I remember us talking about this. Without reading it, I guess it's hard to know, because you're right, tropes are one thing, and any genre is going to be similar to that. Yeah. But if the names are close, if the characters are all close, if it follows basically the exact same plot points, then I think you might start wondering if it wasn't actually copied.
Like, the judge read this. Like the judge would have seen if it was just like
I feel like having
find
read
and select.
All of that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
If someone had to find, change, remove on names and places, but everything else was generally the same, then yes, you could say they stole your idea. But
well, of course, you can't really sue somebody over an idea because, like you were saying, ideas are out there. Yeah. The claim was plagiarism, which is usually the duplication of someone else's words, like a string of words the same. And it doesn't sound like there was any of that.
No, I mean, just like, there are a lot of lawsuits in the music industry about this. And
Yes.
judges have to come up with a similar thing. It's like, okay, there are only so many chords that can be played on a guitar. And so are you actually stealing an idea, or are two people just having the same idea separately?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, like 40% of all country songs are C, F, and G.
Yeah.
That's
you can't copyright those chords.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on to Craft Corner. We got a very special one this time because our own Lara Bernhardt is going to talk to you about effectively using imagery in your work. So take it away, Lara.
Craft Corner.
Let's talk today about using imagery. Imagery is something we tend to associate more with literary fiction or upmarket fiction, but excellent prose utilizes it to create a powerful reading experience too. Have you ever started a book and you just couldn't keep reading because it was flat, didn't stir you? Maybe it was boring. The author probably didn't use imagery or didn't use it well. On the other hand, is there anything better than a book that grabs you by the feels, yanks you into the pages, and leaves you feeling like you just experienced something incredible? Let's talk about some ways to bring that experience to our own work. Judicious use of imagery will make your writing more interesting and draw people in because it evokes the five senses. That touches on emotional connections, helps readers viscerally connect with our characters. Once they care about the character and their plight, they want to see them win. Just like incorporating a theme that readers can connect with, evoking the senses adds emotional depth to your story. If you can trigger the senses, your reader will experience a more complex and rewarding read. I think visual imagery is fairly commonplace and utilized, but don't forget to explore imagery connected with your other senses as well. Taste, smell. These types of connections can trigger nostalgia of a time gone by, pleasure of a day at a carnival, even grief. Grandma's rolls or pie or cookies that no one can recreate now that she's gone will evoke a real connection in your readers. The smell of vanilla can trigger feelings of warmth and acceptance in Mom's kitchen. Cloying smoke causes a physical reaction of irritation or memories of a dive bar, a pool hall, etc. Do remember that we don't want to cram our manuscripts full of these on every page. The important thing is to remember to use it intentionally. And that is where rhetoric comes in. Rhetoric is the intentional use of literary devices and our choice of words. Figurative language like simile, metaphor, hyperbole, alliteration, and personification can all help you. If you're working with a passage and you're editing and you feel like it's falling flat, try to consider some ways of bringing imagery into your work and see if you can't elevate it.
Thank you, Lara. Now, let's talk to Erica Wright. Erica Wright, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here. Okay, traditional first question. If you could offer writers one piece of advice, what would it be?
I always tell writers that to celebrate the small successes along the way, and that could include anything from finishing a difficult chapter to getting some positive feedback to publishing a short story, because I feel like we get so focused on what's the next rung of the ladder, what I want to do next, and we don't actually pause to appreciate what we should along the way. So, keep some cake, keep some cupcakes around, and
I would eat them without an excuse, but okay.
Yeah, this is true. Well, maybe that's true too. But that's just celebrate the small successes.
I love that.
Way, and it keeps us motivated.
That's terrific. I know you've done other things. Tell us how you got started writing.
Oh, sure. My background's actually in poetry. I really fell in love with poetry at a very young age. and pursued my degree in poetry and, wrote my first book, a collection. And while I was doing that, I was visiting Murder Inc. in New York City a lot, which unfortunately is out of business, but was a crime-only bookshop, and was reading all these mysteries. So when I finished my first poetry collection, I thought I would try my hand at writing my own. That book lives in a drawer. That's my drawer monster novel. But it definitely got the bug, and I thought, well, I'm gonna try again. And that's what sort of led me to this different genre.
We've all got a book in a drawer.
Yeah, everyone should.
It's just part of the process. Yeah.
Now, I know, well, you just said you've written, and I know you've published both poetry and fiction. So how do you decide what hat you're going to put on in the morning when you sit down to write?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I find it very difficult to switch between the two. I find that if I'm, trying to write poetry in the morning and then fiction in the afternoon, the fiction's really overwrought, and I can't seem to move out of describing
kind
a
of
chair.
Bleeds over, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really does. So I really just try to separate them. So I work on one project at a time. And that actually is a little bit scary, just to be honest, because I'm always afraid I won't be able to come back. I'm afraid I've forgotten how to ride the bicycle or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there is usually a period of time where I have to kind of sweep the cobwebs out. I'm mixing my metaphors. But there is, let's see, I'll think of a bicycle metaphor, and I've got to change the tires or something. But so far, I can seem to move back and forth if I give myself enough time and I'm patient.
I mean, feel free to argue with me, but it seems like poetry is about trying to say more with less. Right. Whereas prose, you've got a lot more leeway, and you can, rattle on as long as, up to a limit, a reader's limit, but, you've got more leeway there. So I would think it would be tough to go from one to the other. It
is challenging. And, what I like about when I'm writing prose, when I'm in the prose mode, is that I sit down and it really feels like work. And I mean that in a positive way, that I sit down and I know that I want to either write for a certain amount of time, or I'm aiming to finish a chapter, and it feels so productive. And then when I sit down to write a poem, there are days when, I get a few words, and maybe the next day I throw them into the trash can. So, yes. I hate to say that I enjoy writing fiction more, but there is a more, I do have more cupcakes along the way. I have more to celebrate.
Well, and on the flip side, I think that when we write poetry, because there is such a need to be disciplined and adhere to certain style guides and rules, that it can be actually helpful. It can benefit the fiction if we learn to keep it sparse and say what we need as simply and as beautifully as possible. I think that's great.
I like that perspective. Yeah, absolutely. And fiction has rules too, especially mystery novels. That your readers have, you're speaking of reader kind of expectations. They have so many expectations for a mystery, and so I think that both have these kind of boundaries, and you have to figure out how to be creative and say what you want to say within these different boundaries. And to me, I like it. I like having some parameters and some rules. It helps me feel more creative.
Yeah.
It's that balance between left brain and right brain.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about mysteries. Your previous book, I think, was Hollow Bones, which got some terrific reviews. And now you're back with the Museum of Unusual Occurrence, which seems to be a mystery again, although there are some, psychic and otherwise untraditional elements in this book. Tell us about it.
Right up my alley. Love it.
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. So this novel was inspired by the setting. The setting was inspired by a real place. Some of your listeners or you might be familiar with Cassadaga, Florida. It's known as the psychic capital of the world. And it's in the real place, not my fictionalized version, but in the real place, you have to be a certified medium to live there. So you have to have completed this coursework. You have to have your diploma, framed or not, in order to live within the city limits. And when I was living in Florida for a little while, people would talk about this town, something of kind of a very tiny tourist destination. And it just seemed like it would be really rich for setting a mystery there. And my main character is a complete skeptic. She doesn't believe in any of anything supernatural. and she has inherited a museum of oddities. Her kind of dream is to turn it into kind of a more respectable institution. So something like the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. So keep the kind of quirkiness, but make it more of a dignified institution. She wakes up one morning and there is a dead body in one of her display cases. And that sort of derails her plans. And it also means she has to be a little more willing to reach out to her neighbors and kind of accept the quirkiness of this town in order to solve this crime that seems to involve her in some important way.
Sounds terrific.
Darn murder getting in the way of
Darn
plans.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, you've talked a little bit about when you are shifting between writing poetry and writing fiction. But how would you describe your writing process, like daily? What do you do?
Well, I have a 5-year-old, so I think that's actually made me more disciplined because I'm very good about if it's time to write, I write because I have to. It's in order to actually make this work, to keep the wheels running. So as soon as he leaves for his wonderful preschool, which we love, I'm at my desk with a cup of tea, and I really try to write for the first hour every morning. I write my first drafts by hand, which I think is maybe a little bit of a holdover from poetry. Oh, you do? Wonderful.
Yes.
For me, it doesn't look real because it's not a computer screen. It's messy. I'm not embarrassed by it. I just kind of write what I want to write, and then I worry later about, again, reader expectations or, polishing and all of that. So that's sort of what my process is. And then once it finally gets to the computer screen, then I feel like that inner critic kicks in a little bit more, and I have to figure out how to turn it off.
Time to start whipping it into shape. Interesting.
Right.
So are you a pantser or a planner? Do you like to outline? Do you just like to sit down and write? How do you handle that?
I'm definitely a pantser. I would like to be a plotter. I always think that feels like the smarter way to approach a project. But for me, I just want to really explore with the first draft. I don't necessarily, even when I'm writing a crime novel, I don't really know who the killer is until somewhere around the halfway mark. That usually means the first half has to be totally reimagined and rewritten. And it's not a very efficient process. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it,
Sure.
But it does keep me interested. And so at 8 a.m., when I'm at my desk, I've got my tea, I'm curious. I want to know what happens, and I want to keep moving forward. So it's not the best process, but it's mine.
The important thing is that it keeps you moving. I find that a different process works for every single author. And that's the beauty of it, that as long as it works for you, it is the right process and it does work. So that's great.
I like that.
So you write, you said at 8 o'clock, your little one goes to daycare, you write. And then what does that writing day look like for you? Do you try to maintain that for a certain amount of time? Is there marketing involved? Do you just maximize the writing?
Yeah, great question. So I also teach full time. So my kind of hour in the morning is very important because that is my only dedicated time. When I'm on a deadline, which I am right now, I'm also sneaking in a little bit of writing at night, on the weekends if I, have some extra time. But at 9, I shift. At 9, I shift over I put on a different hat and I shift right over into teaching mode. Fitting in the marketing, so that actually is really a challenge because I don't have it kind of on my calendar. So that is really what I'm kind of scrambling to kind of make that 25th hour out of a 24-hour day.
Yes. Oh, it's totally relatable. I'm just curious, what grade do you teach?
I teach college. I teach mainly composition courses, although I sometimes teach. I'm actually developing a short story writing course right now, which has been really fun. I should say it's already been developed. I'm redeveloping it to make it more contemporary. Some of the readings had fallen out of that 50-year range. So I'm sort of updating it, and that's been exciting. Really a lot of fun. It is actually exciting. It's really cool.
I teach it as an adjunct. I teach a college course as well. So
it's great. I mean, I love working with that.
We're kindred spirits here. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that you could share with our listeners about writing or the writing life, or even just juggling writing life with real life, like something that would be very helpful?
I always say that writing doesn't look like it does in the movies, at least not for me. Right. I've read stories about people writing full books on their commutes, either dictating, or if they have a subway or bus, they're sort of writing a notebook. I've definitely written just kind of sitting in the middle of a floor. I've written at the LaGuardia terminal. So I think that sometimes you have this kind of vision in your head of what kind of writing looks like. And it really is just about getting the words onto the page. And as you said, it doesn't matter what that looks like. It's your process. And I think part of that is this sort of this problem that I think we all have of comparing yourself to others, that you want, you want what somebody else has. And that's just, you're on your own journey, keep your eyes on your own page, and you're going to be happier and also probably more productive if you are just focusing on you and your journey, your writing journey.
Excellent.
Erica,
very good advice.
The Museum of Unusual Occurrence will be on the stands when this podcast comes out. So everyone should run out and follow the links in the show notes to find that. What's next from you?
What's next? Well, this is a series. I didn't start the book expecting it to be a series, but
I'm working on that
too. I love the setting so much. I love the characters so much. It really does feel like a privilege to get to continue with them and see where their lives are headed.
Seems like that's
not a title yet. Maybe you all can help me. Maybe
sure. No, we won't do that now.
I bet it'll come to you.
And if it doesn't come to you, it'll come to your publisher. So at some point, I stopped worrying about titles very much because they never used mine anyway. So Erica, this has been a treat. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye now.
Conclusion.
Parting
words.
Just a few parting words. The next event on the WriterCon agenda is, of course, the small group retreat, which takes place at Canebrake Resort, not far from Tulsa, Oklahoma, January 15th through 19th, and we still have spaces available. This is it's a lot different from the annual conference in that we do limit the number of people who can come. There's only so much space at this resort anyway, and we want to be able to read people's work and give you direct feedback on what you're doing. Every day we'll go back and forth, reading, editing, suggesting, revising, and by the end of the retreat, people say they feel like they're writing at a whole much better level. I've
seen it happen. Yes.
Yeah. Plus, it's a lot of fun, don't you think?
Oh my gosh, I'm already so ready for it. This one's so relaxing out by the lake. They've got a steam room, a dry sauna. I go for walks every morning and see rabbits and deer. It's just, you're so far away from everything. It's very easy to focus on your writing.
Which is the whole point. And of course, our annual conference is Labor Day weekend. This year, that's September 4th through 7th in Oklahoma City at the Skirvin Hotel. For more information about either of these programs and more, visit our website, WriterCon.com. All right? Until next time, keep writing. And remember, you cannot fail if you refuse to quit. See you next time.